pupils, parents, and guardians. Let me start by thanking you for being a part of all our remote learning platforms, particularly our television program, The Classroom in Your Home. Each feedback has been awesome. Good job, you. Our teachers have been working assiduously to bridge the learning loss during this critical period. Therefore, I am pleased to inform you that the Classroom in Your Home has been extended to accommodate the lower primary classes and a dedicated lesson to cater for our special needs pupils in line with our mandate of providing an all-inclusive and quality basic education in our dear state.
Hello pupils, you're welcome to another wonderful edition of your favorite program, The Classroom in Your Home, a program organized by the Lagos State Government and packaged by the Lagos State Universal Basic Education Board, LASUBEB. The aim is to ensure that you are academically engaged in addition to what you're learning in school. I am Auntie Fumi, your English Studies teacher. As usual, I have with me your wonderful teachers.
Hello children, I am Uncle Agbaji, your mathematics teacher, but you know me as the mathematician.
Uncle Popo is here, your general studies teacher.
And we also have with us our wonderful sign language interpreter, Uncle Wale. Together, we are bringing the classroom into your home. Please stay tuned. Once again to Auntie Fumi's class. In our English Studies lesson today, we'll be looking at formation of verbs from adjectives. We will learn how to form verbs from adjectives. But before we go into that, I want to appreciate as many of you that submitted their own work. You wrote speeches on your friend's special occasion, which is the birthday ceremony. And I want to say, good job you, well done. As many as did not do his or her own assignment, please, Auntie Fumi is not happy with pupils that do not do their homework. Make sure you do your homework all the time. Now to the learning objective for today. By the end of today's lesson, don't forget we said we're going to be looking at the formation of verbs from adjectives. So, by the end of today's lesson, you should be able to define verbs and adjectives with examples. You should be able to define verbs and adjectives with examples. Not only that, you should also be able to form verbs from adjectives. Are you ready with your writing materials? Then, let's begin. What are verbs? What are verbs? In your year 4, year 5, year 6, you have been taught repeatedly what verbs are. So, we are revising it again. What are verbs? Of course, verbs are action words. Verbs are action words. Words that talks about what you are doing. We have examples like agree, educate, beautify, complain, eat, jump, and so on and so forth. Verbs are action words. Verbs are action words. What about adjectives? Adjectives are words that describe or qualify nouns or pronouns. Adjectives are words that describe or qualify nouns or pronouns. Let's have examples of adjectives. We have examples like gainful, obedient, successful, and so on and so forth. Now, having defined what verbs are and what adjectives are, let's move on to look at examples of adjectives and verbs. Educative, that is an adjective. Educative. And when you want to form verb from the adjective educative, what you have is educate. Educate. Now, look at the sentence. I love watching educative programs. I love watching educative programs. Here you've been able to use educative as a sentence. Now, going to the verb formed from educative, we have educate. And a sentence there is, I want you to educate me more on this topic. Auntie Fumi, I want you to educate me more on how to form verbs from adjectives. So the verb form of educative is educate. Another example, beautiful. Beautiful. We all know that that is an adjective. Yes, beautiful. All the girls watching this program are beautiful. That's a good news. All the girls watching this program are beautiful. Don't worry, all the boys watching this program are handsome as well. But for this program, we're using the adjective beautiful. And the verb formed from beautiful is beautify. Beautify. Look at the sentence. I want some decorations to beautify my house for Christmas. Christmas in the air. Yes. So I want some decorations to beautify my house for Christmas. So from the adjective beautiful, we have formed the verb beautify. Are we together? Good. Let's move on. Gainful. Gainful. That is to be profitable. Gainful. I believe it is gainful to be hardworking than being lazy. I believe it is gainful to be hardworking than being lazy. Now, the verb formed from the word or from the adjective gainful is gain. When you learn, you gain a lot. When you learn, you gain a lot. The next one, the next adjective, manageable. Manageable. Their living condition was barely manageable. Their living condition was barely manageable. Now let's form a verb from the adjective manageable. And we have manage. We have what? Manage. I want to manage the food because I have no option. I want to manage the food because I have no option. I believe you are following the lesson. So from the adjective manageable, we have the verb manage. Obedient. Obedient. That is another adjective. And this is the sentence I have made with the adjective obedient. It is good to be an obedient child. I believe you all agree with me. That is true. It is good to be an obedient child. The verb formed from the adjective obedient is obey. Good children obey their parents. That's another truth. Good children obey their parents. So from the adjective obedient, we have formed the verb obey. Are we together? Brilliant children. This is an adjective, pure. And the verb form from pure is purify. Purify. From the adjective observant, we have the verb observe. Observe. From the adjective dark, D-A-R-K, dark, we have the verb darken. darken. From the adjective offensive, we have the verb offend. From the adjective harmful, we have the verb harm, H-A-R-M. From the adjective wonderful, we have the verb what? Yes, wonder, brilliant children. From rich as an adjective, we have enrich as a verb, enrich. From tolerant as an adjective, we have tolerate as a verb. Other examples are adjective sweet, then verb becomes sweeten. Adjective safe, we have the verb save, S-A-V-E. Adjective safe is S-A-F-E, and when we have the verb form from safe as save, S-A-V-E. Then from rough as an adjective, we have the verb roughen. And from wasteful as an adjective, we have the verb waste. Are we together? Are you following the lesson? Good. Now it's activity time. In the course of today's lesson, we've been able to define what verbs are, what adjectives are. We've been able to give examples of adjectives and verbs. We've been able to form verbs from some given adjectives, and we also try to make simple sentences from the examples given. Now it's activity time. Let's see how attentive you have been in the course of the lesson. Now, in a tabular form, that means you're going to rule in your exercise book, and you are going to arrange the following words into verbs and adjectives. All these words, you will tell me whether they are verbs or adjectives. Pardon. Pardonable. Is pardon a verb or an adjective? Pardonable, is it a verb or an adjective? Oh. Number 2, movable, move. 3, laughable, laugh. And 4, horrify, horrible. Tell me whether they are verbs or adjectives. You have 30 seconds to do that, and your time starts now. Eyes on me. Very simple activity. Is that not so? Just for you to group the words on the verbs and adjectives. And I believe you've been able to do that. Brilliant children you are. Now let's do the correction together. Are you ready? Wow. Verbs and adjectives. Pardon is a verb. Why pardonable is an adjective? Move is a verb. Movable is an adjective. Laugh is a verb, while laughable is an adjective. And horrify is a verb, and horrible is an adjective. Did you get all correctly? Then I need to celebrate you with a cheer. Good job, you. Brilliant pupils. Now to what Auntie Fumi loves most, that is assignment. It keeps you busy while at home. For your assignment, you are to use the following words in sentences. Make simple and correct sentences with satisfy, satisfactory, succeed, successful, use, and useful. In the next 10 seconds, please capture the board, and I'll come back to sign out. By now, you must have finished copying or capturing your assignments. Please make sure you submit your assignment as quickly as possible. And don't forget to indicate your name, your school, your class, and your local government education authority. That is the only way I will be able to identify you and appraise you accordingly. And on that note, I'll say that's it for today. We've come to the end of the English Studies lesson for today. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. I did too. This moment, I want to hand you over to the mathematician, Okwagbaje, for the mathematics lesson. But don't forget, Auntie Fumi is always proud of you. Bye.
Hello, children. You are welcome to this segment of the program, The Classroom in Your Home. It is mathematics time, and that means it is time to have some fun. I am Uncle Agbaje. In our last lesson, we introduced squares that are used to form right angled triangles, and we introduced that work as a follow-up to the work done many years ago by early mathematicians such as Pythagoras of Samos. Today, we will continue with that work on right-angled triangles. And now, moving on to today's learning objectives. What are you supposed to be able to do by the end of the lesson? By the end of today's lesson, you should be able to solve further problems on right-angled triangles. You should also be able to identify what we call Pythagorean triples. What are they? You will find out in the course of this lesson. Let us begin without wasting much time. Now, the key thing that we learned from our last lesson is that if we have any right-angled triangle, not just any triangle, a right-angled triangle, then if you form the square of these two smaller sides and you add them together, you will get the square of the longest side. Again, if you form the square of the two shorter sides and add them together, you will get the square of the longest side. And it is not all the time that we have to keep drawing squares and drawing squares. Since we already have the background knowledge, why don't we use some symbols to make our work shorter? And so, all these squares, we're going to write it in symbolic form like this. If the longest side is A, and the two shorter sides are B and C, as you can see, then this is how we represent B square, the square of B, and this is how we represent the square of C. And it is intuitive, really, because if you multiply a number by itself, that is the square. And B times B is B to the power of 2, as we have done in our previous lessons. So this is B square, and this is C square, the two shorter sides. Now, when we add them together, we'll get the square of the longest side, which is A squared. And this is what we call the Pythagoras formula. The Pythagoras formula, it is not much to cram to the head, so you don't need to cram it. It's just to understand that the longest side, the square of it, will be the sum of the two shorter sides as their squares, okay? So that's just it. And always remember that A is the longest side, the hypotenuse. So it's not just that you pick a number here and a number here and just add it anyhow. No. It is the longest side, the square of the longest side, that will give the squares, the sum of squares of the two shorter sides. Keep that in mind. And then we will work without drawing those squares today. This example says, find the side marked M, this longest side, in this diagram, without drawing the squares. So what do we know? That Pythagoras formula tells us that if I form the square of this, it is the same thing as forming the square of this and adding it to the square of this. And that's exactly what we're going to do. If I form the square of M, that will be written as M squared, M to the power of 2. And that is the same thing as saying adding the square of 5, which is 5 to the power of 2, to the square of 12, which is 12 to the power of 2. And that is just the Pythagoras formula. Now, working with that formula, this here is a letter, but these here are numbers. We can easily work with this. Now, 5 squared is 5 times 5, and that's going to give us 25. 12 squared is 12 times 12, and that is going to give us 144. I suppose I do not need to calculate that for you. 12 times 12 is 144. Now, these are numbers and we can easily add them together. And so we say the square of m, this big square that we need here, is 169, because when we had 25 to 144, we will get 169. Now, addition is not your problem, my friend, so I do not need to show you how I got this. But what we are saying is that the biggest square now is 169. But usually we are not interested in the square. We are only interested in this line, which forms the root of the square. So now that we know the biggest square, we only need to find the root, and that will be our m. You see, you just walk downwards, and when you get to this point, tell yourself the square that I need is 169. But what I really need is the root of that square. So I will need to find the root of 169, because it's like drawing a square here. It's like drawing a big square here. Okay, like that. And then that big square being 169. And you need to find the m, which is the root. So moving forward from there, we'll find the root of 169. And that is our m. Now, finding the root of 169, the same way we have been taught to find square root, will give us 13. And so in this case, our m is 13. Now, I have kept some steps here because I'm working on the assumption that we have learned how to do these steps. I have not shown you, I have not worked out the square root of 169 because we have done it before. And of course, all this multiplication, 5 times 5 is 25, 12 times 12 is 144. You can do those on your own. The most important thing is that you know how to work it downward. So I'll take it again. We begin by saying that the square of the longest side is the sum of squares of the remaining two sides, and that is simply written here. The longest side is m, so I take the square. Then the remaining two sides are 5 and 12, so I take their own squares as well. Now find out what their squares will be. The square of 5 is 25, the square of 12 is 144. Then I add it and I get 169. And that means that the biggest square that I'm looking for will be 169. But I don't need that big square, I only need the root. So I find the root of that 169 and we get 13. And so you are going to apply the same principle in your own turn, which is coming up right about now. You are to find the side k in this diagram. Now, just to give you a head start, I'm going to tell you the square of 16. The square of 16, my friend, will be 256, so that you can walk faster. And then I'll give you 1 minute. Begin. Alrighty then, eyes on me. I believe that you have found the length k. But without wasting much time, let us see how it is done. Now, k is the longest side, and that means it will be the root of the biggest square. And so, the square, that biggest square, k square, will now be the sum of the remaining two squares, 12 squared and 16 squares. And I already told you that the square of 16 is 256. And from our previous work, of course, you know that the square of 12 is 144. That should make your work faster. So now adding those two smaller squares will give us the bigger squares. And that is, adding these two smaller squares will give us the bigger square. So 144 plus 256, you should have gotten 400. And so the biggest square that we were supposed to have here will be 400. Okay, but we do not need 400. We only need a side of it, which is the root. So now we need to find the root of 400. So I'll just do that quickly here. 400 to find the square root. And I break it down. 2 can divide, of course, and 2 is the smallest prime number we have. 2 goes in 400, 200 times. 2 goes in 200, 100 times. 2 goes in 150 times. 2 goes in 50, 25 times. Now 2 can no longer go, and 3 cannot go, but 5 can go. 5 goes here, 5. 5 goes here, 1. Now we have gotten to the end of that. What we need to do is to pick 1 and skip 1. Pick 1 and skip 1, and pick 1. And so the square root of 400 will be to multiply the ones that we have picked, 2, 2, 5. 2 times 2 times 5. And that will give us 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 5 is 20. And I'm sure that you got 20 as well. So we just take that back. Okay, so the square root of 400, of course, is 20. And that means that that longest side, k, is 20. I believe you did get it right. But if you did not, no problem, my friend. You will have enough time with the homework to practice. All right. So before we move on to the next thing, observe that we have gotten k to be 20 here. And so 12, 16, and 20, they are a special triplet of numbers, such that when you add the square of 12 and square of 16, you get the square of 20. That is exactly what we call a Pythagorean triple. 3 numbers that fit into a Pythagoras formula perfectly. So we'll talk about Pythagorean triples. What are Pythagorean triples? Pythagorean triples are sets of whole numbers that fit into the Pythagoras formula perfectly. They are whole numbers. For example, we have 3, 4, and 5. The square of 3 plus the square of 4 will give you the square of 5. And that is what you call a Pythagorean triple. There are so many Pythagorean triples. And so sometimes when you have a right angle triangle like this, for instance, and you know that the side of one is 3, the other side is 4. My friend, if you are familiar with your Pythagorean triples, you know that 3, 4, and another number form a Pythagorean set. And the last number for that set will be 5. So there is no need for you to start doing all the square root formula and all that. If you know the triple, just fill the last gap with 5 and you can move on easily. So 3, 4, and 5 form a Pythagorean triple because the square of 3 is 9, the square of 4 is 16, and that gives the square of 5, which is 25. 5, 12, and 13 also form another Pythagorean triplet. The square of 5 plus the square of 12 will give you the square of 13. 8, 15, and 17, another Pythagorean triple. Square of 8 plus the square of 15 will give you the square of 17. And so if you come across, say, a right angle triangle of this nature, and you see that one side is 8 and the other side is 15, and you are told to calculate the last side, you don't need to go uncalculated, my friend. You have found 8, you have found 15, automatically the last side will be 17 if it's going to be if it's a right angled triangle. So these are some Pythagorean triples: 3, 4, 5, 5, 12, 13, 8, 15, 17, 7, 24, 25. There are millions of, there are infinitely many of them. But it is good if you're able to familiarize yourself with 1, 2, 3, 4. And when you're working with right angle triangles, you may just come across some of these and you won't need to work at all. Practice some of these things that I've said. Check out this. Here are some right angle triangles. Use your knowledge of Pythagorean triples. I've put them there to find the missing sides. You have just 30 seconds. Begin. Alrighty then, that shouldn't have been so difficult. Here you have 3, 4. Automatically the last one here will be 5. And here you have 15, 17. And that is this set here. Automatically the last one here should be 8. And here you have 5, 13. 5, 13. Automatically the last one here should be 12. It's as simple as that. No need for calculation if you are sure that you know that Pythagorean triple. Another interesting thing to note is that Pythagorean triples, when you multiply them, you will also have Pythagorean triples. For example, the Pythagorean triple 3, 4, 5. If I scale it up 2 times, I'll get 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 2 is 8. 5 times 2 is 10. That means 6, 8, and 10 also form a Pythagorean triple. So if you have a rectangle, a triangle that has one side to be 6, a right angle triangle that has one side to be 6, another side to be 8, automatically the last side will be 10 without you having to calculate. If I multiply everything with 3, I'll get 9, 12, 15. So automatically if you have a right angle triangle with one side to be 9 and the other to be 12, automatically the last one will be 15. But you don't need to cram all these. The one you need to put to head is 3, 4, 5. And from there you can get all the other ones. Now let's see how we can apply this knowledge without calculating. By using the knowledge of Pythagorean triples, find the missing side in this diagram. Now I do not know this. These are the Pythagorean triples. 12, 16. There is no one that has 12 and 16. But know that Pythagorean triples are always in the lowest form. So what we can do is that we can divide this to the lowest term. 4 can divide this, I will get 3. 4 can divide this, I will get 4. Now I can see that this triple will be based on 3, 4, 5. 3, 4. The last side will be based on 5. Okay? But what have I done from 3 to get 12? I've multiplied it by 4. What have I done from 4 to get 16? I've multiplied by 4. So I have to multiply this 5 by 4. And that means m will be 20. So the last one there will be 20. So highest common factor of 12 and 16 is 4. And if I divide it, it will reduce it to 3, 4, 5. That means the last side here will be 5. And now I can multiply by 4 again, and I will get 20. So the last one here will be 20. I'll take that again. Reduce this to the lowest term, then you get 3 and 4. Then you know that the last one will be 5. Now you have to multiply it back with what you divided in the first place. We divided by 4, so we multiply that 5 by 4, and we will get 20. So the last one will be 20. That is one way of using your knowledge of Pythagorean triples without having to calculate using the long method that we taught earlier. So for your homework, you are to find the missing sides of these triangles. You can use your knowledge of Pythagorean triples, or you can decide to use the long method of squares, adding and finding the square root. Whichever one you prefer, my friend, is fine. Capture this in 30 seconds and I'll be right back. Hello children, you are welcome to this segment of the program. It is Thursday Teasers, where I give you a mental exercise to stress your brain muscles. Are you ready for today's brain teasers? Well, let's see what it's all about. There are 4 monkeys here: Alfred, Baldwin, Charlie, and Darwin. But they are not all the same. One monkey is different. Can you spot the different monkey? You have 1 minute. Begin. Alrighty then. Did you have any luck fishing out the odd monkey? Well, the odd monkey is not Alfred, it's not Baldwin, it's actually Charlie. Because if you look at Charlie's hands, the one he has to the head, then you can see that, let me pick a color here now. Yes. You can see that Alfred has a cusp here, Baldwin has a cusp here, and David also has a cusp here. But this man does not have a cusp. You can see his own is just like an N, no cusp at all. So the odd monkey right there is the third monkey. Aha. And so that's it for today's segment of Thursday Teasers. Till I come your way in the next lesson, do remain wonderful mathematicians. Over now to Uncle Popo. Bye bye now.
Hello, puppies. You are welcome to General Studies class. I am Uncle Popo. Uncle Popo is here.
I am also here.
Great. We are here together.
100% attention.
Excellent. 100% attention is what I want you to give me in today's lesson. Our subject for today is physical and health education. That's the subject. In our last lesson, we talked about swimming. There we talked about different swimming skills, benefits of swimming, and when mentioning about the swimming skills, we talked about butterfly stroke and so on. So today we want to look at another topic in physical and health education, and that is the topic that most of you will be so much interested to listen to. And the topic is we want to talk about football. I know you are happy about that. So let me even ask, how many of you are supporting Barcelona? Let me see your hands. Good. Manchester United. Great. Enyimba FC. I know some of you will not want to do that, but Enyimba FC is still a football club. So good. Now let's talk about the history of football. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to say a brief history of football and state the soccer positions of footballers. Football. Now let's look at this very short video. Good. I know you are very familiar with it, but just to entertain us and see, I know some of you are eager to even see, maybe you want to see Messi, you want to see Ronaldo. That's good. But before football is like this, then in the olden days, some years back, football that we are enjoying today was not like that. Now let's talk about it. But first, football or soccer is a sport played between two sides or two teams of 11 players. I believe you all know that. Aside from that aside that you play in your schools or in your street, the standard football players should be 11 for each team, with a spherical ball. This is the ball where the footballers play. And what's the objective? The objective of football is to outscore your opponent. When you outscore your opponent, that's when you win the match. A goal is scored when the entire ball crosses the goal line between the goal post. You are very aware of that. Let's entertain ourselves with this slip again. Great. Now you have seen, I know who scored that goal. I know. So I won't mention it. Now let's talk about the history of football in the world. Now, football, as you enjoy or play it today, is quite different than the history. As the sport developed, many rules were implemented and more historical landmarks were set. So as the game was developing, then they were coming up with different rules. Like you know that a footballer playing on the pitch should not use his hand to touch the ball. That would be what? That's a foul. And when the ball goes outside the line, when they are playing, that's what? At the side, that's throwing. So they came up with different rules and they were improving on those rules. For example, the penalty kick was introduced in 1891. In what year? 1891, even before most of us that were talking about football were born. The penalty kick was introduced in 1891. Take note of that. That was when penalty kick was introduced as one of the rules. And we have a body that is controlling that game. We have FIFA. And FIFA, what's the full meaning? Now, the full meaning, how we pronounce it is a French word, so I'll pronounce it the way it's being pronounced. And listen, Fédération Internationale de Football Association. That is the full meaning of FIFA. But most of us prefer calling FIFA as Federation of International Football Association. That is FIFA. FIFA is the International Federation governing football. That is to distinguish it from union football like rugby. So that's why we have FIFA. FIFA became a member of the International Football Association Board of Great Britain in 1913. And listen to this. Red and yellow cards were introduced during the 1970 World Cup finals. Before, there were no yellow cards, red cards, but during the 1970 World Cup finals, they introduced red card and yellow card. That was when they introduced red card and yellow card. The question, you can have questions where they will ask you, when was red cards and yellow cards introduced in football? So, you should know that it is in 1970. Now, more recent major changes include goalkeepers being banned from handling deliberate back passes. Before, when you kick ball to goalkeeper, back passes, he can pick it. But later, in 1992, another law came up that goalkeeper should not use his hand to pick up any back pass from his players. So, handling deliberate back passes in 1992 and tackles from behind becoming red card penalties in 1998. Another law again in 1998, when you tackle a player from the back, that is especially in the box, that is a red card or penalties. Now let's talk about history of football in Nigeria. Football was introduced to Nigeria by the British at the start of the 20th century. It was introduced to Nigeria by the British, and we have a body that is governing football in Nigeria, that is NFF, and that stands for Nigeria Football Federation. NFF stands for what? Nigeria Football Federation, the body charged with controlling football affairs in Nigeria. The first recorded football match in Nigeria was in 1904. Was when? 1904. That was the first recorded football match in Nigeria. But by 1950, football had become the national game of the country. By 1950, we started having football as a national game. What are the soccer positions of footballers? Some of you that are saying you can play or you have been playing football. When playing, we have different positions for footballers. Let's look at the soccer position. We have the goalkeeper, you know, goalkeeper where goalkeeper stands, defender, and when talking about defender, we have defenders. We have some playing center back, sweeper, fullback, wing back. You know, we have some at the wing, your 2 and 3. We have your 5 and 6. It depends on the formation of the team. We also have the midfielder. That's we have the center midfield, defensive midfield, attacking midfield, wide midfield. They are playing like you have your 10, 4. So we also have forward. Forward, that's the striker or the center forward or the winger. In one word, the soccer positions, we have the goalkeeper, we have the defenders, midfielders, and the forwards, that's the strikers. So we have it here. It depends on the formation. This is the fullback, the center back, goalkeeper. Just take a glance at this picture and look at what I'm talking about. So, don't forget, today we are having another segment tagged In My Planet. So let's have this question first. Question number 1. What is the full meaning of FIFA? Question number 2. The first recorded match in Nigeria was played in what year? And question number 3. In what year was red card and yellow cards introduced in football? You have just 30 seconds to do this. Eyes on me. Uncle Popo is here. I believe we are still here together. So let's mark the full meaning of FIFA. If you give the full meaning in this form, you are correct. And if you still write Federation of International Football Association, so you are still very much correct. So the second one, the first recorded match in Nigeria was played in 1904. In what year was red card and yellow card introduced in football? In 1970. That's it on that. Now on to that segment. In my planet. When I say in my planet, you will say great things are happening. Then when I say great things are happening, then you will say in my own planet. You have to do it that way. So let's go. In my planet, great things are happening. Great things are happening in my own planet. Good. Last time we talked about the record breakers. Today, and then I told you that it's not only on academics that you can break records. That your talent, your skill can pave way for you. When you just nurture it and develop it, you can make great things happen. Today we want to look at a very small boy like your age and see that he has made great things happen, and let's discuss the boy. The boy is homeless 8-year-old boy who became, the boy is homeless. Now let's look at it. We want to talk about homeless 8-year-old boy who became a chess champion in New York. And who is that? This is the boy, 8-year-old boy. Let's just hear the brief story about him. Tani Toluwa, known as Tani Adewumi, a young Nigerian immigrant, proved that hard work pays by winning the New York State Scholastic Primary Championship in his age bracket in 2019. According to what his father told CNN, the family of 4 fled the northern part of Nigeria for fear of being murdered by the Boko Haram sect in 2017. That means they left that side, the northern side, to New York in 2017. While they lived in a homeless shelter, when they got there, they did not have home and they were living a homeless shelter, Tani, that is Tanitoluwa, learned to play chess. Just a little over a year later, he became a winner and changed his entire family's fortune. While they were in homeless shelter, the boy learned how to play chess, and a year later, he went for competition like that for his age bracket, and he won to become winning the New York State Scholastic Primary Championship in his age bracket, and it changed the life of his parents at that age. So this is what I'm telling you, that at your own age, you can also make great things happen. Whatever talent, whatever skill that you have, nurture it, work more on it, do not relent. Don't forget, it is better to do it better in order to make you better for the betterment of the society. Applying common knowledge in an uncommon way will make you a great person. Until next time, Uncle Popo says, keep on studying. Bye.
My wonderful pupils, we have come to the end of another wonderful edition of The Classroom in Your Home.
A wonderful and exciting one at that. We have enjoyed bringing new lessons in mathematics, English studies, and general studies to your home. And we hope that you have had fun learning with us as much as we have had fun teaching you. Now, practice, practice, practice is the mother of perfection. To get enough tests to practice with, we have created that online site for you via the link bit.ly/LASUBEB tests. The link again is bit.ly/LASUBEB TESTS. There you'll find a plethora of tests to practice all that we have taught from lesson 1 till date.
Taking the online test is based on if you have access to either your daddy's, your mommy's, your uncle's, or your auntie's Android or smartphones. If not, there's no problem. Just send your questions, your comments, and your assignment to 081 50 86 5663. Please do not call that line. SMS and WhatsApp messages only. And when you're sending in your assignment, make sure you indicate your name,
Your school,
Your class,
and your local government education authority, LGEA. That is the only way that we'll be able to identify you and appraise you accordingly.
all the lessons taught today and the previous ones are on Lagos Subeb YouTube channel for you to watch. Subscribe to Lagos Subeb YouTube channel to get notification when new videos are uploaded. The classroom in your home could be watched live on Facebook. The same time airing on television through the page showing on the screen.
Until our next lesson, when we shall meet again for another beautifully packaged edition of The Classroom in Your Home, make sure you do your homework.
Wash your hands regularly.
keep studying hard, but above all,
Stay safe. At LASUBEB, we leave no child behind.